Look, I am going to be completely honest with you. When they wheeled Marcus Rennick into Bay 7 of our medical observation wing, I thought we were dealing with just another broken human. You know, the usual story. Human does something stupid, human gets hurt, human ends up in our facility because apparently their own species cannot keep them alive for more than 5 minutes without supervision. I am Doctor Vellix Threnn, by the way, Senior Xenobiological Medical Analyst for the Galactic Health Consortium. 15 years of service. 347 species under my belt. I have seen things that would make your stomach turn inside out, literally, because I have witnessed that exact medical condition in Kravik's patients. But this case? This specific human case? It rewrote everything I thought I knew about biological resilience and mental capacity. Marcus Rennick was 32 years old. Former soldier, current security contractor, and according to his medical files, a complete disaster of a life form who had survived 14 separate incidents that should have killed him. 14. The file read like a comedy of errors, except nobody was laughing because this idiot kept walking away from situations that turned other species into vapor. His latest adventure involved a mining rig explosion on Tertius 5. A gas pocket nobody detected, an ignition source nobody could trace, and an explosion that killed 43 workers instantly. 42 of various alien species, dead, gone, molecular dust. And then there was Marcus, thrown 300 meters through a collapsing tunnel system, buried under rubble for 6 hours, and somehow, still breathing when the rescue team dug him out. Breathing. Barely, but breathing. His skull had fractured in 4 places. His left arm was shattered, 3 ribs broken, internal bleeding, and yet his heart kept beating. Because apparently humans do not understand when they are supposed to die. We stabilized him, put him in medical stasis, the standard protocol. His body would heal, given time and our technology. But his brain? His brain was the problem. The scans showed massive trauma, swelling, pressure. The kind of damage that usually means you are bringing flowers to a memorial service, not monitoring vital signs. We induced a coma to give his gray matter time to recover without the stress of consciousness. Standard procedure, done it 1,000 times across 1,000 species, except 3 days into his coma. Junior technician Cree noticed something odd in the neural activity monitors. Cree is a Plaxian. 4 arms, compound eyes, attention span of a hyperactive child, but sharp as a molecular blade when it comes to reading data. She came into my office holding her datapad like it was about to explode. "Dr. Threnn," she said, her voice doing that high-pitched thing Plaxians do when they are nervous. "You need to see this." I was eating lunch. A very nice fungal paste imported from Sector 9, expensive, delicious, and now interrupted. "Cree, if this is about the human again, I swear by the old gods I will have you recalibrating waste disposal units for a month. It is about the human. His brain. Doctor, his brain is not behaving like a coma patient." I sighed, put down my lunch, pulled up the neural monitors on my own terminal. Standard coma patterns show minimal activity. The brain ticks over, keeping basic functions running, but most higher cognitive processes shut down. Think of it like a building with only emergency lighting. Enough to keep things safe, but nobody is home. Marcus Rennick's brain? His brain looked like downtown Proxima during rush hour. "What in the name of sanity am I looking at?" I asked. Cree's antenna twitched. That is what I wanted to know. His neural activity is spiking across multiple regions. Pattern recognition centers, motor cortex, prefrontal regions, all firing, all active. That is not possible, and yet I leaned closer to the screen. The patterns were not random. They had structure, rhythm, like watching a musician play an incredibly complex piece, except the instrument was a human brain, and the music was neurological chaos that should not exist. Could be seizures, I said, though I did not believe it even as the words left my mouth. No, doctor, seizures are chaotic. This is organized. Look at the theta wave patterns. Look at the synaptic firing sequences. This is not random neural noise. This is activity with purpose. I stared at the data for a full 2 minutes. Cree stood there, fidgeting with her datapad, waiting for me to say something brilliant. Run a full diagnostic on the monitoring equipment, I finally said. If the machines are malfunctioning, I want to know. She ran the diagnostics. 3 times. Every sensor, every electrode, every quantum measurement device attached to Marcus Rennick's sleeping skull, all functioning perfectly. The human's brain was genuinely active at levels that defied medical explanation. He was in a coma, unconscious, unresponsive to external stimuli. His eyes did not move. His body did not react. By every clinical definition, he was not home. But somebody was using his brain like a training facility. Over the next 48 hours, the activity increased. We brought in specialists, neurologists from 6 different species. Everyone stood around Bay 7, staring at monitors, arguing in 4 languages about what they were seeing. Dr. Vellix, a Vexian neurologist with 30 years of experience, suggested we were witnessing some kind of psychotic break, a brain fragmenting under trauma, consciousness splintering into pieces. Dr. Harmon, one of the few other humans on station, disagreed loudly. His vitals are stable. Brain chemistry is balanced. This is not psychosis. This is not a breakdown. This is something else. Then what? Vellix demanded, his gill slits flaring in frustration. What else could cause this level of activity in an unconscious brain? Nobody had an answer. I ordered continuous monitoring, round-the-clock observation, every neural spike, every pattern shift, every anomaly documented. If this human was doing something impossible, I wanted to know what, how, and why. Day 5 brought the first real clue. I was reviewing the overnight data when something caught my attention. The patterns. The neural firing sequences. They were not just active, they were repetitive. The same structures firing over and over, with slight variations each time, like someone practicing, like someone training. I pulled up the motor cortex data specifically. In a normal sleeping brain, motor regions show minimal activity. You are not moving, so why would those areas light up? But Marcus, his motor cortex was firing in complex sequences, patterns that resembled walking, running, climbing, fighting, all the movements of an active body playing out in a body that was completely still. Hills running combat drills, I said out loud, to nobody in particular. Cree looked up from her station. What is brain? Look at these patterns. This is not random activity. This is practice. He is running through scenarios, training sequences. His conscious mind is offline, but some part of his brain is using the downtime to train. That's insane. That is human. I started cross-referencing the neural patterns with known combat training databases, military simulations, tactical exercises. The matches were not perfect, but they were close enough to be disturbing. This human, lying unconscious in a medical bay, skull fractured and body broken, was using his coma as a training ground. Dr. Harmon came in during the night shift. I showed him the data, watched his face go from confused to amazed to something approaching fear. How is this possible? He asked. You are human, you tell me. He shook his head. I have read about this. Theoretical papers, studies on consciousness during trauma. Some researchers believe the human brain, when faced with extreme stress, can partition itself, create isolated consciousness zones. One part shuts down for healing. Another part keeps working, processing, training, preparing for the next threat. That is the most paranoid evolutionary adaptation I have ever heard. We are a paranoid species, Dr. Threnn. We evolved on a death world. Everything wanted to kill us. Our brains learned to never, ever fully turn off. I looked at the monitors, at the human lying motionless in the medical pod, at the storm of activity hidden inside his skull. "So what is he training for?" I asked. Harmon did not answer, but his expression suggested he had ideas, and none of them were comforting. Day 8, the activity patterns changed, no longer just motor cortex. Now his sensory processing regions were lighting up. Visual cortex, auditory centers, even olfactory regions. Like he was not just moving in his internal simulations, but seeing, hearing, smelling everything around him in whatever imaginary battleground his subconscious had created. I started documenting everything in obsessive detail. This was going to be a landmark case study: neural activity during induced coma in human subjects. I would present it at the next Galactic Medical Conference. My name would be attached to the first real documentation of this phenomenon. Then, Day 10 happened. I was in my office reviewing data when every alarm in Bay 7 started screaming. I ran. Cree ran. Half the medical staff on duty ran. We burst into the observation bay, expecting to find Marcus dead, or seizing, or exploding, or whatever other horrible thing humans do when they break. He was awake, not awake like slowly regaining consciousness, awake like someone flipped a switch. His eyes were open, focused, scanning the room with perfect clarity. His heart rate was elevated but controlled, his breathing steady. He looked at each of us in turn, assessing, calculating, like a predator evaluating threats. "Where am I?" he asked. His voice was rough, unused but clear. "Medical Observation Wing, Galactic Health Consortium, Station 13, I said, trying to sound calm and professional while my own heart was doing gymnastics. "You were in an explosion. You have been in a medical coma for 10 days. He processed this information in about 3 seconds, looked at his bandaged arm, looked at the monitors, looked back at me. 10 days, yes, he is longer. What a strange thing to say. What a very, very strange thing to say. I ran every test, full neurological workup, cognitive assessments, memory tests, motor function evaluations, everything. Marcus Rennick was not just functional, he was performing above baseline. His reaction times were faster than his pre-injury records, his cognitive processing scores were higher, his spatial awareness, his pattern recognition, his tactical thinking, all improved. 10 days in a coma, and he came out better than he went in. "How do you feel?" I asked him during one evaluation. He thought about it, actually thought about it, like he was taking inventory of his entire system. "Good," he said, "really good. Like I have been training non-stop, and now I am ready." "Ready for what?" he smiled. Not a happy smile. "Whatever comes next." I filed my initial reports, sent the data up the chain to the Medical Oversight Committee, waited for the avalanche of questions that would inevitably follow. Dr. Vellix came to see me on day 12. He looked concerned. More than concerned. He looked frightened. "Threnn, do you understand what you have documented? A remarkable case of neural adaptation during trauma-induced coma. Yes. No. No. You have documented evidence that humans can train their consciousness even when unconscious. Do you understand the implications? Do you understand what that means for any conflict scenario? You cannot disable a human by rendering them unconscious, because they will use that time to prepare for when they wake up. They will come back stronger, faster, more dangerous. They weaponize their own recovery time. I had not thought of it in those terms. But hearing Vellix say it out loud made something cold settle in my stomach. Humans already had a reputation in the galactic community. Dangerous, unpredictable, resilient to the point of absurdity. We told ourselves it was their death world origin, their evolutionary pressure cooker of a planet, their constant exposure to threats that killed everything else. But this was different. This was not just surviving, this was using, every single moment, even moments of unconsciousness, to become more effective, more capable, more ready for violence. Marcus was cleared for discharge on day 15. His physical injuries had healed faster than expected. His brain showed zero lingering damage from the trauma. He was, by every medical standard, in perfect health. I watched him sign the discharge papers, watched him thank the medical staff, watched him walk out of Bay 7 like the last 2 weeks were just a minor inconvenience. Freeze stood next to me, all 4 arms crossed. "Dr. Threnn?" she said quietly. "Yes, Gray. That was the scariest patient I have ever monitored. Was unconscious for most of it. That is what makes it scary." I could not argue with her logic. 3 days after Marcus left, I received a message. Not official, not through proper channels. Just a simple text communication to my personal terminal. It was from Dr. Harmon. "You should know." The message read, "Marcus Rennick is not an isolated case. I have been researching. There are 17 other documented instances of similar neural activity in comatose human patients. All showed the same patterns. All woke up with improved capabilities. The human military has been studying this for years. They call it consciousness partitioning. They are trying to figure out how to induce it deliberately. Thought you should know what you stumbled into. Stay safe, Threnn." I sat in my office for a long time after reading that message, staring at the screen, thinking about Marcus, thinking about his brain, active and training while his body healed, thinking about 17 other cases, thinking about human military researchers trying to weaponize their own comas. Outside my window, the station rotated slowly through space. Thousands of species living together, working together, mostly in peace. We had our conflicts, sure. Border disputes, trade arguments, the occasional diplomatic incident. But we were civilized. We followed rules. Humans followed rules too, until the rules stopped making sense. Then they rewrote reality to fit their needs. I pulled up Marcus Rennick's file one more time, looked at his medical history. 14 near-death experiences. 14 times he should have died. 14 times he walked away. And now I knew why. Because even when humans are dying, they are not finished. Even when they are unconscious, they are preparing. Even when every logical species would give up and accept death, humans look at death and say, "Not yet. I have training to do." I closed the file, shut down my terminal, tried to sleep that night, but could not stop thinking about what I had witnessed. Somewhere out there, Marcus Rennick was walking around, carrying all that training his subconscious had completed. 17 others like him existed. Maybe more, maybe hundreds. Maybe every human who had ever been in a coma had done the same thing, and we just never thought to check because it seemed too impossible to be real. The Galactic Health Consortium would want to study this further, would want to understand it, would want to document it. I was not sure I wanted to, because understanding something and being comfortable with it are two very different things. Humans were already the most dangerous species we had ever encountered. Now I knew they were even more dangerous than we thought. Because they never stop. Even in their sleep, even in comas, even at death's door, they never stop training, preparing, becoming ready for whatever threat comes next. That is not evolution. That is not biology. That is something else entirely. Something that makes the rest of us look fragile and unprepared by comparison. I am Dr. Vellix Threnn, Senior Xenobiological Medical Analyst, 15 years of service. 347 species studied, and I just learned that the most terrifying thing about humans is not what they can do when they are awake. It is what they do when they are not. So, here is the thing about discovering something that fundamentally terrifies you. You have 2 choices. You can pretend you never saw it, file it away in your mind under problems for future me, and go about your life. Or you can do the stupid thing, the thing that keeps you up at night, the thing that makes you question Every decision that led you to this moment chose the stupid thing. 4 weeks after Marcus Rennick walked out of my medical bay, I was still thinking about him, still reviewing the data, still trying to understand what I had witnessed. My colleagues told me to let it go. Cree actually sat me down and said, "Dr. Threnn, you are obsessing. This is not healthy. You documented the case, you filed the reports. Move on." But I could not move on, because Dr. Harmon's message kept echoing in my head. 17 other cases. Human military involvement. Consciousness partitioning. They were trying to weaponize it. I started digging. Quietly, carefully, using my medical clearances to access databases I probably should not have been accessing, looking for patterns. Looking for other cases of humans waking from comas with improved capabilities. Turns out, there were not 17 cases, there were 43, documented across 12 different medical facilities over the past 8 years. 43 humans who went into comas, showed unusual neural activity, and came out better than before. And every single one of them had military backgrounds. Every single one. That is not coincidence. That is selection. That is purpose. I was in my office, 3 in the morning station time, reviewing case files I definitely did not have authorization to view, when my terminal chimed with an incoming communication. Priority level, encrypted, from an address I did not recognize, but I should not have answered it. Every security protocol I had ever learned screamed at me not to answer it. I answered it. The screen showed a woman. Human, obviously. Maybe 40 years old, short dark hair, eyes that looked like they had seen things they could never unsee. She wore civilian clothes, but something about her posture screamed military training. "Dr. Vellix Threnn?" she asked. "Who is asking?" "My name is Major Dion Kovac, Human Defense Intelligence. I understand you have been researching a very specific medical phenomenon involving comatose patients." My blood went cold. Well, not literally, because I am Threxian and our blood does not respond to temperature changes like that, but you understand the sentiment. I was tempted to say that I have been conducting standard medical research within the scope of my position, I said carefully. "Dr. Threnn, I am not here to threaten you. I am here to offer you information. Information you are going to find anyway, except if you keep digging the way you have been digging, you are going to set off alarms that will get both of us into trouble. So, I am reaching out first." Professional courtesy. "Why would you do that?" She smiled. It was not a comforting smile. "Because what you discovered with Marcus Rennick. We need the galactic medical community to understand it, not fear it, not weaponize it against us. Understand it. And you seem like someone who might actually listen." Against every survival instinct I possessed, I said, "I am listening." Major Kovac pulled up a holographic display. Medical data, neural scans, case files, dozens of them. "Consciousness partitioning," she began, "is not something we created. It is something we discovered. About 12 years ago, a trauma surgeon named Dr. Elizabeth Mora was treating casualties from a mining accident. 3 humans, all in medically induced comas. She noticed unusual neural activity, started monitoring it, documented the patterns. When those patients woke up, they reported the same thing. Dreams that felt like training. Scenarios that played out in perfect detail. Muscle memory that carried over into waking consciousness. That should not be possible. And yet, Dr. Mora spent 5 years studying it, compiled data from hundreds of cases. Eventually, the military took notice. Not because we wanted to weaponize it, though I am sure that thought crossed some minds, but because we needed to understand it. Because if our soldiers were doing this naturally during medical recovery, we needed to know how it worked, why it worked, and whether it could be harmful. I leaned forward. "And what did you discover?" "That human brains, when faced with physical trauma severe enough to require unconsciousness, do not just shut down. They reallocate. Background processes that usually handle minor tasks get repurposed. Memory consolidation pathways get hijacked. The brain essentially creates a training simulation using existing neural architecture. It is not deliberate. It is not conscious. It is automatic survival programming. But why? Why would evolution create something like that? Major Kovac's expression darkened. Because, Dr. Threnn, humans evolved in an environment where being injured meant you were vulnerable. Predators hunt the weak. Rival tribes attack the wounded. Our ancestors who could use recovery time to mentally prepare for the next threat. They survived. The ones who just laid there healing? They got eaten. Natural selection is a brutal teacher. I sat back in my chair, processing this. It made horrible, perfect sense. Of course, humans would evolve this way. Of course, their brains would weaponize unconsciousness. They come from a planet that tried to kill them every single day for millions of years. So what do you want from me? I asked. 2 things. First, stop accessing classified medical databases. You are good, but you are not that good, and eventually someone less friendly than me will notice. Second, I want you to consult on a case, someone who needs your expertise, someone whose neural activity is beyond anything we have documented before. Who? Marcus Rennick. Oh no. Major Kovac saw my expression and nodded. He came back 3 days ago, walked into a military medical center requesting evaluation, said something felt wrong, said the training had not stopped. What do you mean, had not stopped? He is awake, conscious, fully functional. But the neural activity patterns you documented during his coma, they are still happening. Right now, even while he is up and walking around. His brain is running combat simulations in the background constantly, like background processes on a computer. He is partition training while conscious. That should not be possible. That should absolutely not be possible. But then again, everything about this case defied possibility. I need to see him, I said. Major Kovac smiled. I was hoping you would say that. 6 hours later, I was on a transport shuttle heading to a classified military medical facility on Proxima Station. Cree had tried to stop me, had actually stood in front of the docking bay exit and said, Dr. Threnn, this is insane. You are going to a human military facility to examine a patient who is apparently running combat training in his brain while awake. Do you hear yourself? Do you understand how dangerous this is? Scientifically fascinating, though, I replied. You are going to get yourself killed. Probably. But I am going to document it really well first. The facility was exactly what you would expect from human military operations. Sterile, efficient, everyone walking with purpose and barely concealed weapons. I felt like prey in a predator's den. Every human I passed looked at me with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. Major Kovac met me at the entrance. Led me through security checkpoints that scanned everything short of my genetic memories. Finally, we arrived at a medical observation wing that looked disturbingly similar to my own back on Station 13. Marcus Rennick sat in the center of the room, not lying down, not unconscious, just sitting in a chair, electrodes attached to his head, monitors displaying neural activity that made my medical training scream in confusion. He looked up when I entered, recognized me immediately. Dr. Threnn, he said, they told me you were coming. Nice to see you again. Sorry about the circumstances. How are you feeling? I asked, because what else do you say to someone whose brain is doing the impossible? Honestly? Tired. My brain will not stop. I close my eyes, and I am running through tactical scenarios. I eat breakfast, and part of my mind is analyzing threat vectors. I try to sleep, and I am fighting battles that do not exist. It has been 3 weeks of this. I cannot turn it off. I pulled up his neural scans on my datapad. The patterns were even more complex than what I had seen during his coma. Multiple partitioned consciousness zones, all running simultaneously. His primary consciousness, handling normal daily activities. And underneath, like background music he could not stop hearing, 3 separate training simulations running in parallel. "This is extraordinary," I said. "This is exhausting," he corrected. "Dr. Threnn, I am not sleeping." "Not really. Part of me is always awake, always training, always preparing. I am burning through calories like I am running marathons in my sleep. I have lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks. My reaction times are faster than humanly possible. But I am so mentally tired I can barely hold a conversation." I looked at Major Kovac. "Have you seen this before?" "Never. We have documented cases of extended partition training during comas, and a few cases of brief partition activity after waking, but nothing like this. Nothing sustained. Nothing permanent." "Permanent?" Marcus asked quietly. "You think this is permanent?" The room went very quiet. I reviewed the data again, looked at the neural pathways, looked at the energy consumption rates, looked at the brainwave patterns that showed no signs of stopping or slowing down. "I do not know," I admitted. "But your brain has fundamentally rewired itself. The pathways created during your coma are not temporary. They are structural changes. You are not running simulations because you are stressed or injured. You are running simulations because your brain now thinks that is normal operating procedure." Marcus closed his eyes, took a deep breath. When he opened them again, I saw something I had not seen before. Fear. "Can you fix it?" he asked. Could I? Could anyone? This was unprecedented. This was neurology beyond anything documented in galactic medical literature. I was looking at a human brain that had evolved in real time into something new. "I can try," I said. Over the next 72 hours, I worked with Major Kovac's medical team to understand what was happening inside Marcus Rennick's skull. We ran every test. We mapped every neural pathway. We analyzed every firing pattern. We compared his brain to baseline human neurology and found hundreds of differences. His amygdala was overactive. His prefrontal cortex had developed new connections to his motor regions. His hippocampus was processing memories at accelerated rates. His entire brain had reorganized itself around the concept of constant threat assessment and response preparation. He was, in essence, a human whose brain had decided that peace was not an option, that safety was temporary, that every single moment needed to be spent preparing for conflict. "This is what we were afraid of," Major Kovac said on the 3rd day. "We were reviewing scans, looking for any way to reverse the changes. When we started studying consciousness partitioning, some researchers warned this could happen, that the brain could get stuck, that the survival mechanism could become permanent." "Why Marcus?" I asked. "Why him specifically? 42 other cases, and none of them experienced this. We think it is the severity of his injuries combined with his prior exposure to trauma. 14 near-death experiences, remember? His brain had already been primed by repeated trauma. The mining explosion was just the trigger that pushed his neurology past some threshold we do not understand." I looked through the observation window at Marcus. He sat in the same chair, eyes closed, running simulations only he could see, fighting enemies that did not exist, preparing for threats that might never come. "He is going to burn himself out," I said quietly. "The human brain is not designed to operate at this intensity continuously. He will collapse within months, maybe weeks. I know. No. So what do we do?" Major Kovac turned to look at me. "You tell me, Dr. Threnn. You are the xenobiological expert. You have studied 347 species. You have seen things we cannot imagine. Is there any precedent for this? Any species that operates with constant partitioned consciousness?" I thought about it, ran through my mental catalog of every species I had ever studied. And then I remembered something. Something from early in my career. A species called the Draxon Collective. The Draxons, I said slowly. They are a hive mind species. Each individual maintains separate consciousness while also being part of the collective. They essentially run multiple thought processes simultaneously, different from Marcus, but similar in principle. Can they help? I do not know. But they might understand the neurology better than we do. It took 4 days to arrange the consultation. The Draxons do not leave their home system often, and convincing them to send a medical specialist to examine a human was not easy. But eventually, Dr. Thraxic's mind arrived, 8 feet tall, 6 limbs, a head that looked like a flowering plant, and a mind that operated on levels I could barely comprehend. Thraxix examined Marcus for 6 hours, ran tests using equipment I had never seen before, asked questions in 3 languages simultaneously. And finally, after making me question my entire understanding of neurology, delivered the verdict. This human is evolving, Thraxix said in that harmonic voice Draxons use. Not his body, his consciousness. His brain is attempting to partition into a collective, except he has no collective to join. He is trying to become multiple entities within one biological form. It is extraordinary. It is unprecedented. It is also killing him. Can you stop it? Major Kovac asked. No, but I can teach him to control it. The Draxon method of consciousness management might work for a human brain configured like this. It would require training, discipline, years of practice. But theoretically, he could learn to deliberately partition his consciousness, run simulations when needed, and shut them down when not needed. He could learn to be a collective of one. Marcus opened his eyes, looked at Thraxix with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. "Teach me," he said. And so began the strangest medical treatment I have ever witnessed. A Draxon hive mind specialist teaching a human how to manage multiple simultaneous consciousness streams. It should not have worked. By every medical principle I knew, it should have failed spectacularly. But humans do not care about what should or should not work. They care about what does work. Over 6 weeks, Marcus learned techniques the Draxons had developed over thousands of years. Meditation practices that let him observe his own partitioned thoughts. Mental exercises that gave him control over which simulations ran and which shut down. Breathing patterns that synchronized his consciousness streams. Slowly, impossibly, it worked. His neural activity stabilized. The constant background simulations became something he could turn on and off. He started sleeping again, eating normally. His body stopped burning through calories like he was running marathons. I documented everything, every technique, every breakthrough, every moment of progress. This was going to revolutionize our understanding of consciousness, neurology, and the absolute insanity of human biology. On the final day of his treatment, Marcus sat in that same chair, electrodes attached, but now the monitors showed something different. His consciousness was unified. No background processes, no constant training. Just normal human brain activity. "How do you feel?" I asked. He smiled. A real smile this time, not the predator smile from before. "Human," he said. "I feel human. For the first time in months, I feel like myself." "Can you still partition?" "If you needed to." His expression shifted. For just a moment, I saw something in his eyes. Multiple consciousnesses looking out. Multiple versions of Marcus existing simultaneously. And then it was gone. Back to normal. Like watching curtains close on a window. "Yes," he said quietly. "I can still do it. But now it is a choice, not a curse." Major Kovac looked at me. "So what happens now?" "Now. Now," I said. "We have documented the first case of a human achieving deliberate consciousness partitioning. We have proven it can be controlled. We have shown that alien techniques can help manage human neurology in ways we never imagined possible. And we have opened up entirely new fields of research into consciousness, identity, and the nature of human cognition." "That sounds very formal and medical, Dr. Threnn. What does it actually mean? I looked at Marcus. At this human who had been broken, who had been changed, who had learned to control something that should have destroyed him. It means, I said carefully, that humans are even more dangerous than I thought. Because now you can deliberately do what Marcus did accidentally. You can train while unconscious. You can partition your consciousness. You can become multiple people in one body. And if you teach this to soldiers, to pilots, to anyone who needs extreme cognitive performance, you will have effectively created a species of individuals who never truly rest, never stop preparing, never stop improving. The room went silent. Everyone processing the implications. Or, Marcus said quietly, it means that humans who suffer traumatic brain injuries might have new treatment options, that coma patients might recover faster, that people with cognitive disorders might find new ways to function, that consciousness itself might be more flexible, more adaptable than anyone ever realized. It does not have to be a weapon, Major. It could be medicine. I looked at this human, this impossible, resilient, utterly exhausting human, and realized something. We had been approaching this wrong from the beginning. Thinking of consciousness partitioning as a military advantage, as a threat, as something dangerous. But it was also something beautiful. The human brain, faced with catastrophic injury, finding ways to heal itself by becoming something new. Not just surviving, but adapting in ways that expanded the very definition of what consciousness could be. You are right, I said. It could be medicine. It should be medicine. Major Kovac nodded slowly. Agreed. This research stays medical. But we document it, we study it, we help people with it. No weaponization. No military applications beyond helping injured soldiers recover. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I am not naive. I knew what would happen. Some government, somewhere, would see this research and think about applications, about enhanced soldiers, about consciousness warfare, about all the terrible things humans could do with the ability to partition their minds. But for now, in this moment, we could choose to make it something positive. 2 months later, I was back on Station 13, back in my office. Back to treating patients and filing reports and living my normal life. Except nothing felt normal anymore. Because I had seen something that changed my understanding of biology, consciousness, and the nature of intelligent life. Cree came to visit me on a quiet afternoon shift. Brought me fungal paste from that expensive place in Sector 9. You have been very quiet since you returned, she said. Want to talk about it? Humans are terrifying, Cree. We knew that already. No, I mean truly terrifying, not because they are violent or aggressive or resilient, but because they are adaptable in ways that rewrite the rules. They can change their own consciousness. They can become something new in response to trauma. They do not just survive, they evolve in real time into whatever they need to be. Cree was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That is also kind of beautiful though, is it not? The ability to change, to adapt, to become something more when faced with challenges." I thought about Marcus, about his brain learning to be a collective of one, about his smile when he finally felt like himself again. Yes, I admitted, it is also beautiful, terrifying and beautiful, like everything about humans. My terminal chimed. Incoming message from Marcus Rennick. Dr. Threnn, wanted to update you. I have been working with Dr. Mora to develop therapeutic protocols for other patients showing partition activity during comas. We have had success with 3 cases so far. Turns out, teaching people to manage their own consciousness is incredibly rewarding work. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for seeing this as medicine instead of malfunction. You saved my life, and now I get to help save others. Marcus. I read the message 3 times. Felt something warm settle in my chest. Pride, maybe. Or relief. Or just satisfaction that something good came from all of this. What does it say? Cree asked. It says humans are going to revolutionize consciousness medicine and we are all going to have to rewrite our medical textbooks. That is very human of them. Yes, it is. I looked out my office window at the stars beyond, at the vast galaxy full of thousands of species, millions of individuals, countless different forms of life and consciousness. And somewhere out there, humans were learning to partition their minds, to become collectives of one, to evolve their own neurology through sheer stubborn refusal to accept limitations. They monitored his brain in a coma. It was training. And now it was teaching us things we never imagined possible about consciousness, survival, and the incredible, terrifying, beautiful adaptability of the human species. I am Doctor Vellix Threnn, Senior Xenobiological Medical Analyst, 15 years of service. 348 species studied now because humans with partitioned consciousness apparently count as something new. And I have learned that the most important lesson in xenobiology is this: never assume you understand a species completely, especially humans. Because the moment you think you have them figured out, they will do something impossible, survive something unsurvivable, or evolve something that should not exist. And somehow, they will make it look routine.